So, based on all the things, I know we sort of touched on it briefly, but based on, what's happening in COVID and what's changing in education, if you were going to talk to, with your educationist hat on, I guess, with your leadership hat on, what would you, because obviously some of these things you're doing without, what would you recommend to other ed tech companies to be thinking about? What do you think is important for them to understand right at this point in time? And, if they're thinking about what they're building or what they're basically delivering into schools, what do you think is important?
I think schools have got a really unsettled few years ahead of them based on all the sort of baselining and all of that kind of issue that I talked about earlier. And I think from our perspective, from an edtech's perspective, you've got to be mindful of that, and you've got to be I think you've got to be transparent and open with schools when you're talking to them, and that's what we're trying to do. There's not an easy answer, and there's not a right or a wrong answer at the minute at all either. And I know that other ed tech companies who are our competitors are approaching this from a different angle, and that's fine, And the most important thing is that we're empowering our schools and our leaders in our schools to make decisions that feel right for them. And for us, it's therefore important that we're as transparent as possible with the decisions that we're making about the types of analysis that we're putting in our product. That means that they're able to make a decision as to whether that's the right direction for them or not at this point in time. Yeah. And if it is the way that they want, because the other important thing is if you hoodwink them, people are not stupid. They start using your product and they say, whoa, hang on a minute. You didn't tell me this, you didn't tell me that. So for me, and I know my educational colleagues feel the same. None of us are salespeople, absolutely not. And when I talk to colleagues in schools, I'm probably the worst salesperson in the whole history of sales. You would not want me on your stand, because I'm just honest. I just think it's more important to be honest. And I know my colleagues feel the same. And if you're not, then you'll get found out, in the sense of, hang on, you said this and that's not the case. So yeah, we're aiming for, transparency, honesty over the decisions that we're making, putting our sort of thoughts and evidence out for everybody to make their own judgment call on. And I think that's what's the most important. And I hope that school leaders would value that, in the sense of, I don't agree with you, fine, that's fine. You're allowed not to agree with me. Or, yeah, we got it. It's, it's an improvement tool. You're using your best guests, or you're using your professional judgment. Yeah, I'll buy into that kind of thing. So that's what I think. In the meantime, I sort of I hinted at this earlier. I also think it's important for us to be forward-looking as well, and to not allow the current crisis, or it might be a strong word, but the current situation to hamper us moving forward to put in features and enhanced things into our product that will make people's lives simpler now and when things return to to norm. So we're kind of pushing forward with that as well, just with that sort of agenda of let's keep going on this is going to make your life simpler front, because do you know what, everything will settle down. It will, and life will go back to some form of normality where we know where we start, we know where we end. It will, because it always does. It's a bit philosophical, isn't it?
No, amazing. No, I totally agree. I totally agree with you. So you said about some of these improvements and some of these developments. So any insights, any interesting snippets?
Well, one of the biggest, I think, as a company, we identified that one of the biggest things that was a gap in our product compared to competitors is that having said all of the ALPS has been a tool for school improvement, and the methodology's never matched the government's methodology. I think over the last few years, it's become more and more obvious to all of us at ALPS, and particularly in the education department, that what we were missing was that nod to the government accountability measures. Because the bottom line is, when you're a school leader and you're looking at Key Stage 4 outcomes, you have to be looking at the way that the government and Ofsted are going to be measuring you. You have to. And in Connect, that's never been there. So, you know, we are sort of a month, 2 months, what was it, end of October, 2 months away from releasing that into Connect at Key Stage 4. So people will be able to see the ALPS analysis that they love, plus the senior leaders in schools will be able to say, okay, and that's how I measure up against the government performance metrics. And then once we've done that at Key Stage 4, we'll do the same at Key Stage 5. So that's, you know, within the next, 12 months. You have various other enhancements, like we want to bring in a little bit more sort of customized reporting. So going back to what is it that you want to get out of Connect that makes your job easier, that means you have to spend less time in an Excel spreadsheet. I want this, this, and this. Right, okay, let's give you it.
Okay.
So, you know, trying to do that kind of listen to what people want us to produce for them, and then allow them to produce it. It's dead exciting. Dead excited about that. So yeah, it's exciting times. Exciting times.
It's good. So it shows that ALPS is continuing to progress and develop. You're obviously listening to your customers a lot as well, and you know, I think that was a throughout all of this chat, which has been amazing. You know, I think the whole idea of listening to your customers, you know, recognizing their pain points, understanding what they need to ask that so what question, I think is really, really important. And obviously something that you find you hold dear as part of what you do as you go forward.
Definitely, and I think you asked a question earlier about, you know, what do people like me bring to the ALPS team and the engineering team, and it's that passion for this is what I would have wanted. This is how I was using it, or this is how I would have wanted to use it, or whatever, to make my life easier, to give me the answers to the questions. And I think that's what my colleagues in the education team, I think that's what we bring into the company is, you know, we at that, however many decades of senior management experience we have between us, and I would be aging us all to put a number on that number of decades, but you know,
that many decades,
not that many decades, no, but you know, we've been doing it collectively for a number of years, and I think that is really, really important,
Absolutely.
to be drawing on that experience. Yeah,
I totally agree, and you know, whenever I have whenever anybody from in the education world or in education world, that's a really silly thing to say because obviously ed tech is in the education world, but anybody who's in schools who is looking potentially come out and explore different avenues of education, you know, I always recommend big tech companies I work with that they should take on board these people, because they've lived it. You know, it's hard to get that insight unless you've lived it sometimes.
No, agreed. I totally
Very
agree.
important.
Yeah, I think so.
I would like to say a massive thank you, Sue, for your time, and I appreciate you're a busy person at the moment. And like I say, there's some really good insights in there that, as we just discussed, really regarding, you know, really focus on the customer, really concentrate on what the outcome is as well, rather than just thinking that what you have, people should surely just come because I've had a great idea. So and I think that's really important for people to understand. There's lots of businesses sometimes that forget actually what they're doing is developing something for other people rather than themselves.
Indeed.
And I think that's important.
Indeed. Yeah. No, it's been a pleasure.
Excellent. I'm glad.
No, thanks, Nick.
And I think everyone will get something from this for sure. So it's a big thank you from me.
No, thank you. Thank you from me.